Great, so good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Tuesday session for our YEA Academy. It gives me great pleasure to introduce somebody that we're all familiar with. His name is Bob Ellen. Bob Ellen is co-owner of KD and he's going to talk to you about e-commerce and B2B marketing. But let me share something that you probably didn't know about Bob that I've come to realize is that Bob has a really dedicated passion about students, and he's been really integrating himself within the Oxnard College campus community. As a matter of fact, it's because of Bob's efforts and ambition, he has helped launch our first student entrepreneurial club on Oxnard College, and so we launched it as of last week. And so it's the first time we've done this. It's the first time our college district has created an entrepreneurial program. So we're really looking now at building from our student cohort a potential entrepreneurship pathway, which will allow you to major to get a degree in entrepreneurship, or even a proficiency or certificate of achievement, or using these entrepreneurship courses for your program of study for transfer to Cal State University. So we're really excited about that, and we could talk more about that later on. But that's the value that Bob brings to Oxnard College. Bob.
Okay. This is a new thing. I see myself in the family now, so I'm going to do the right thing. Many of you look at me and you think of me with video cameras and stuff like that. How many of you have ever bought anything on eBay? Everybody know what eBay is? Well, probably 12 years ago, I was one of the top 200 sellers on eBay, selling used golf balls when e-commerce was first coming into play. So to start with that, that's where my background is, and that's what I want to help you understand where the future is going to be. So let me ask a question. Does anybody understand what e-commerce stands for? Come on. Electronic commerce. E-commerce. So let's go back, okay? And I want to try and take you back to what commerce was. And can you go all the way back to the days when the pioneers were first coming out to the West Coast, okay? They didn't have any money. So what did they do? The first form of commerce. They bartered. In other words, if you have something that I want, what do I have that you want of equal value? So they would come out, and one person would become the chicken grower. He'd be the chicken farmer, and they would have eggs. Another person would be the meat farmer, and then someone would plant corn. And what they did was they said, hey, if I give you some of my eggs, would you give me some of your meat? And that was called the barter system. That's when communities worked together and two people said, hey, I like your shoes. You want to trade? And you're going to say no, right? I said, what if I gave you $30 worth of shoes? Would you trade? So that's the kind of bartering that people did, okay? And what happened was there was no dollar bills printed because the United States government did not start printing them yet. So people had to do that bartering. You know, you give me something, I'll give you something of equal value, and you determine what it was. Then we came to something called gold. And does anybody understand what gold means? What its value is? Gold? Yeah. It's a precious metal that all of the dollar bills all over the world that are printed are backed by gold reserves in those countries. In other words, gold is a form And that's what happened in the 1850s when they had the gold rush in California. Everybody came out because gold had a value, okay? Well, then you print the money, and now you have dollar bills to go. That's another form of commerce. You come into my store, I give you a dollar bill, you take a dollar's worth of product, okay? The next form of commerce probably was the biggest change that started coming about. They offered people credit way before the credit cards happened, okay? I see a little smile on Robert's face, okay, because he comes out of the banking industry, okay? And what they did was they started offering loans to people. In other words, if you were in business and you had something that you were going to sell to somebody and you had an order, you could go into the bank and get money against that order. So credit was the next thing that was done, okay? And then electronically, what happened was there were checks that were printed. Does anybody have a checkbook? Okay. You may never have one. But in other words, you can have a checking account, but most likely it's going to be done electronically. But it came out, and what happened was that it took, because there weren't any computers, so it took 3 days when you deposited a check before someone cashed it. So you had a little bit of time, and all of this started coming about, okay? And then the internet came. And it changed everything that the banking industry and the monetary industry really did. So what happened is, all of a sudden, when you had commerce where you were, like, I used to be in the furniture business, and people would buy furniture from me, and I would have to give them 60 days to pay me. So I had to have the money to lay out to buy it, to have that time. Then along comes e-commerce, and I was very early to get into it. I collect the money before I have to make the shipment? Wow, this is the best kind of business to have in the world. So in reality, what is e-commerce? It is basically the collection of funds, okay, for goods and or services that you are going to need to have capabilities of telling people that when they owe you money in the businesses that you're going to go into, okay? Does everybody understand they're going to have a website for your business?
Are you asking if people are going to have websites for
Yeah,
their business?
are you going to have,
Raise your hand if you're
a
going to have
website?
a website.
Okay. Now, what does it take to make that website into an e-commerce site? Anybody have an idea?
Business change.
It requires what's called a shopping cart, okay? Where people, when they come into your website, and if they want to buy something, they press buy it now, and you collect the money right away. So that is in reality what e-commerce is really all about. It's the ability to send somebody an invoice electronically and collect the money without any funds changing hands. It's all done electronically from one bank to another bank. Now, I just want to share one important thing when you get to that point, okay? Is there are many different places like credit card companies that would like to help you create a checkout store on your store, okay? And what they're doing is they start charging you money for collecting the money. Nobody does anything for free, okay? So most of the places charge 3% as a collection fee. It's a little on the high side versus a traditional one. But I have been privileged to use something called, anybody ever hear of PayPal? From my perspective, I would never use another shopping cart collection for one reason. PayPal is the only processor where the money is immediately put into your account. In other words, if somebody buys something from me right now on eBay, and I have a store on eBay, I would get a beep on my phone, hey, you just got money in your PayPal account. You can transfer money from your PayPal account to your checking account. That way you can have the money coming down. You could use your PayPal account as literally a debit card for making payments for things that are going to be like to GoDaddy. If you have a website, you have to have hosting. So you have to pay for that somehow. So one of the most important things to have once you're starting this whole business is somewhere where you can develop credit yourself. And the easiest way to do that is with a debit card like PayPal. So I would like to open up, if there's, for me, e-commerce is the new way of collecting money. It's something that, it's the most amazing thing I ever went through. I used to worry about collecting money from people that owed me money for 60 to 90 days. And now I get up in the morning and I go check my emails, and all of a sudden there's money in my bank. Can you imagine that? You're sleeping and somebody's coming and putting money in your bank? That is the best definition of e-commerce that I could leave you with. Okay? So does anybody have any questions? Okay, I hope, yeah.
What were some of the struggles that you had during your business?
Excuse me?
What were some of the struggles you had with
Struggles. Too much sales and not too much sales and not enough software to get the product to the customer quick enough. So it was the development of all the infrastructure. Sales came on too quickly, but we were able to adapt. So now all that infrastructure is already developed. So things like if somebody had an idea here and we wanted to try something to sell it, well, has anybody heard of Trader Joe's? You know what Trader Joe's mantra is? We will go around the world to bring products that we think are worthwhile to our local community. We're starting something with something called my online store on eBay. Is Trader Harry's. Harry was my grandfather. He was a fur trader between Russia and England, okay? And I am going, so we have created something called TraderHarrys.com, where our mantra is we are going to take all of the local things made or grown in Ventura County, and we're going to create direct delivery services to the people.
Wow.
So
Pretty cool. That's pretty
keep
cool.
thinking of things like that, okay? Because that is the infrastructure of you taking care of your own people. And e-commerce makes that extremely easy. So as we go through the rest of the year with the websites and everything, if anybody, and I know a couple of people that want to raise money so they can go to the, inauguration. These are ways that basically you could immediately use an e-commerce site to let people know about what you're trying to do, and maybe they just want to make a donation. And if you have a PayPal account, it said, would you like to donate? So it's even for services like that, okay? So if there's no more questions, I'm glad that I was able to hopefully stir up some imagination with everybody.
Thank you.
Okay?
Okay, Jesse, do you feel like you want to stay here? Did you work with your parents at all on your side? Okay. Do you have your choice, because you're in between, you can stay here or be with Bob, whichever.